Rupert Murdoch is out at Fox, and chaos at the House GOP. Not a surprise. The breakdown starts now. Good evening and welcome to the breakdown. I'm Tara Setmayer. This is the Rick Wilson, and we are back. It's been a couple of weeks. We've been traveling. A lot has happened. It's like a new season now. Last time we were on air, it was summer. It's now almost fall. There's been a lot, but Rick, I'm glad to be back with you. I miss you.
Likewise.
During my European excursion to celebrate my anniversary and birthday. But I posted pictures, folks. So those of you who follow me saw what a great time my husband and I had. And then I had a work conference in Bavaria, which was,
as one does.
Did a little Oktoberfest in Munich, which was cool. A little Ein Prosit. It was cool. But, nothing happened while I was gone. Did it?
I have to say, Tara, just to interrupt you, speaking of Oktoberfest,
yeah.
I don't know why. And I think it might have been maybe it was because I looked at a picture of yours. My Instagram feed has been trying to sell me lederhosen for weeks.
Stop.
It's a mystery and an enigma. And I keep looking at the lederhosen going, I don't really have any reason to wear leather shorts with suspenders.
In Florida. But then again, I don't know, Florida man, I'm sure someone has run around in leather shorts and suspenders in Florida for some god-awful reason.
Roger Stone.
Yeah, in Key West. Oktoberfest is a trip. Anyone who's ever been in Munich, it is an experience. And last year I had my whole dirndl, the whole thing going. I had it sent over from Germany and fitted. I was all in. I have a little Edelweiss necklace. This year, my luggage got stuck in German customs for a week, and which had my my dirndl and everything in it. So I never got it in time. So I had to go. I almost didn't go because I was pissed off that I didn't have my whole outfit, but I went anyway. I got my luggage back, by the way, today.
Well, that's good.
Anyway, first world problems. But while I was gone, couple little things happened. And this week has been chock filled with lots of news. We just found out this afternoon that Fox News is now no longer run by Rupert Murdoch. He has passed it along to his son, Lachlan. We're going to talk about that in a couple minutes. We've got Biden up at the UN talking about democracy and saying that democracy is on the ballot in 2024, which we here at the Lincoln Project agree with 100%.
Mentioned that a time or two, I think we have.
Yes, we have. There's absolute chaos going on over in the House. Kevin McCarthy's losing control quickly. It's that time of year. I worked in the House for 7 years. This time of year is always a scramble because it's the end of the fiscal year. You got to pass a budget by September 30th or the government shuts down. Well,
TikTok.
Yep, TikTok. And McCarthy has now sent the House home because they can't get it together. And we've got 9 days to figure it out. So we've got lots to talk about. Before we get into it, we've got to do a last week in the Republican Party. And this week's last week in the Republican Party is crazy.
Lit.
If you're eating, stop.
Right.
Roll it.
Hey, 4G, why you simping for MTG? Why you simping for MTG when neither of you bitches are an MVP?
And I did like the part where he said that maybe I was smarter than Ted Cruz.
Liberal gays in particular, they have a thing for Republican gays. It is a thing.
I guess you would know. I mean, I'm not going to question your boner fide.
I was a little too eccentric. I'm very known for having a animated personality.
I got a new strap-on harness today. I can't wait to put it on.
We don't have the evidence now, but we may find it later.
It's crazy. I don't do the hat thing anymore because I don't want to, what shall I say?
Having a Democratic candidate live sex acts on a porn site.
I'm also troubled by the prospect that as more women identify as men, our bathrooms will become filled with people who see the bathroom as a social occasion.
I couldn't tell if you cut away to Kevin McCarthy or a commercial for low T.
You have voter ID to buy a loaf of bread. You have you have ID to buy a loaf of bread.
Why you said some of the things that you've said, which you yourself have admitted are not true.
Aaron, you know what would be great? And I'm not deflecting, but I'm just going to call you out.
Of all the descriptors attached to Vivek Ramaswamy, the most common one seems to be annoying.
Never be allowed to walk down the streets again. They have destroyed our city, and New York, especially Queens, is woken up.
Let's pull away from this.
And I heard a giggle.
Leave and get the out of our country and get the out of Iowa.
I'm going to put him down as a maybe.
Because I guess I'm a politician, whether I like it or not.
What is happening? What is happening?
Look, Tara, one of the abilities of the Republican embrace of craziness like this is at some point, if you've got a low quality vehicle, it's going to fall apart. They've got a low quality vehicle in the House in particular right now, and it is falling apart. Kevin McCarthy is plunging towards a government shutdown. He knows it's going to be bad for the economy. He knows it's going to hurt the Republican Party, but he's so clinging to his job. He's such a limp, impotent political figure. He won't really check the craziness and say, I will not tolerate this. Get in line. We're keeping the government open. We're not going to blow our chances for next year. Every government shutdown redounds to the disadvantage of the party that shuts down the government.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
they should have learned about 15 freaking times now.
You would think when the Republicans started doing this in the 90s, I was a Senate intern and I was furloughed during the shutdown that was led by Newt Gingrich. Sure. And you know what happened after that? It only lasted, I forget how long it was. I think it was a couple weeks, right? But the Republicans lost control of the House. They lost, like, what are you guys doing? And then every single time they've done this, they lose support because people, it sounds great, like, yeah, screw the government until you don't get your Social Security check. And and air traffic controllers aren't paid. And you realize the actual real life consequences of what happens when there's a government shutdown. Right. It looks ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And over what? And a lot of this, to get back to the Fox News story, a lot of this is because people have been conditioned by Fox News and other right-wing extremist media outlets that this is somehow sticking it to the man and screw governing. No one, governing like an adult, doing what the House is supposed to do. Congress, this is like their one job. You have one job, and that's to fund the freaking government. And they somehow think that this is like a badge of honor for them to shut down the government and be like this. And it's not. It's a clown show, and they're acting like children. And this has real world consequences. And McCarthy knows that too. But Fox News, we're going to talk more about McCarthy in a second. But I just want to talk about Fox for a second. The fact that Rupert Murdoch at 92 is finally stepping down and passing on the Succession, it's like the real life show Succession, which is awesome, by the way, to Lachlan, one of his sons.
I'm the eldest son.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my God. I wonder if he's going to win the Emmy. I think Kieran Culkin should win the Emmy. The one who plays Roman this year. They're all up for Emmy nominations. He should win it. But anyway, but in this instance, Lachlan Murdoch is pretty much his father when it comes to this. And some say that he's even more right wing, that he's more Trump friendly, that he is someone that will bring Fox kind of back into that camp. He's a Tucker Carlson apologist. Like, just because Rupert's stepping down doesn't mean that Fox is all of a sudden going to become a legitimate news channel. It could potentially get worse. Right. And when we've been talking about this at Lincoln Project for quite some time, and we want to remind folks of something that we put out about Fox not that long ago. It still applies.
Correct.
Rupert Murdoch thinks Fox viewers are stupid.
He's the most dangerous man to ever cross our border, ruling over a network of deceit that made him a billionaire.
I'm the guy. I'm the guy. I'm the guy.
Fox News is an anti-American cancer.
Fox Chairman Rupert Murdoch testified under oath that he does not believe the election was stolen from Donald Trump. And he also said that some Fox News hosts went too far.
Host Tucker Carlson texted a producer, "We are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights." Referring to Trump, Carlson says, "I hate him passionately. I can't handle much more of this."
There is a settlement in the high-stakes trial between Dominion Voting Systems and Fox.
Fox has admitted to telling lies about Dominion.
This case really was ultimately about Donald Trump and about the fact that he was in bed with a network that Americans relied upon for news, and that what they were told instead of news was lies.
Today's settlement of $787,500,000 represents vindication and accountability. The truth does not know red or blue.
Yeah, the legacy of Rupert Murdoch is one that I think the history books are not going to be kind to him, Rick.
No, and I had a number of interviews today about Rupert's departure from the day-to-day management of Fox, and I first off, point about Lachlan being actually more right friendly. He's much more aligned with the Elon Musk, David Sachs, Tech Bro, Joe Rogan,
of course,
Alex Jones axis of the media than he is with Rupert in a lot of ways. Because look, Rupert was a conservative, and these guys are populists and nationalists, and as
more dangerous
done. I think the worst of Rupert's legacy will be this: he was an immigrant who was welcome to this country, who came to this country and could build something that made him billions of dollars. But he used that access to this country, that entree to this country, as the most dangerous immigrant to want to slam the door shut behind him and say that any other immigrant who wanted to come after him was a criminal or a thief or a danger or some kind of threat to this country. And I think that's going to be the really dark side of Rupert's legacy as we go forward.
And it's a legacy that's it's decades long. People don't realize. I mean, like I said, I was in Europe for a couple of weeks, and his influence with European media, particularly in the UK, is huge. And everywhere I went, the tabloids. I mean, you think tabloids in the US are bad? You should see the tabloids in Europe. It's insane. And Rupert Murdoch has a large role to play in all of that, influencing the media there and here. And when Fox News was started in 1996, he basically took right-wing talk radio and put it on television. And it has been incredibly successful. And the power of this medium has influenced the behavior of tens of millions of Americans into believing vaccines are unsafe, that Donald Trump actually won the election.
Right.
They validated Trump and Trumpism. They demonized immigrants. All of these things that the crazy right wing has become. Fox News was the vessel for it, because that was the way to put that out there. It was so incredibly irresponsible. It's really hard to quantify how much damage Rupert Murdoch's empire has done to this country.
It really is, Tara, and it is a smaller force than it was before. It has shrunk somewhat in its ratings because there are competitors like OAN and Newsmax and these other streaming channels that we don't really know about. We're not really in that universe, that appear on places like Rumble and on Telegram and Discord. All these other outlets that the right has flooded to, that they've cost Trump or cost Fox some of its oomph. But as the election heats up again, you're going to see likely voters in the Republican Party go back to the source of almost all the normative messaging that they got since 1996.
Yeah.
And they're going to go back home to the nest of Fox.
And they're going to go back home to Trump. Anybody who thought that was under the illusion that that Fox was going to back off of Trump or somehow ignore him or diminish him, I'm telling you right now, that's never happening. That's a fantasy.
I started saying it in the early part of the year. I'm like, watch the turn back to Trump.
Right, from DeSantis back to Trump, because DeSantis has fallen off and Trump is obviously going to be the nominee regardless of everything that he's going through. And, part of the thing, speaking of Trump, did you see the stories, Rick, this week about Trump freaking out about going to prison? And then people are saying like, he said on Meet the Press, no, I don't think about going to prison. Bullshit. Of course he does. And we have 3 sources. Rolling Stone reported that he's privately fretting about it. And he's like, oh my God, what if I have to wear the jumpsuit? And what's going to happen to his hair? And is he going to go to Club Fed? Like, this dude, man, Trump is.
Yeah. Trust me, Donald, they'll find an extra husky for you, bro.
There was another story too about the whole like.
I didn't like these prison animals. They're not classy.
Right. There was another story too about Trump worrying about his own cognitive abilities. That the whole like his obsession with the cognitive test that he claims he passed, the whole TV, camera, whatever.
Person, woman, man, camera.
Person,
TV,
woman, that. Which we have merch on, right? And we have merch on that.
That was one of our best-selling pieces of merch in 2020, and it still cracks me up every time I see it.
Do we still have it available? I don't know. You have to go check the website, but it's pretty funny.
I think we do.
Kate will still send it to me in notes. But
yes,
it's still there. You can go to lincolnproject.us and to the merch store. And
we do. Yes, it's still there.
Good. I need to get one. I don't know why I don't have one. But anyway, but he's worried that all of that talk about that is really projection, and that he's actually worried about his own cognitive acuity here. That's why he goes after. Well, we always say that it's always projection with him, and I think we have a pretty funny video about this.
He's too old. He's out of touch, losing his marbles at an alarming rate.
They have sinks where no water comes out. You turn it on, no water comes out. You want to wash your hands, right?
Yeah.
And you've seen this, and you turn on the sink, and it's very little.
I do want to remind everybody, this is the guy that worked with the former Klansman.
I will be Donald Trump's most loyal advocate to make sure his nominees go to the Supreme Court.
Full of his struggles and ramblings and rantings and mumbling and bumbling and stumbling. You decide. Take a look.
They've deliberately surrendered our border to vicious coyotes and drug smugglers. I mean, these drug smugglers, the smuggler.
A smuggler! I find it awkward. I find it embarrassing. He's really in the early stages of some kind of senile dementia.
I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation, the beginnings.
It's more than awkward and embarrassing. It's actually dangerous. Having someone with his mental state, to me, is terrifying.
She speaks in rhyme.
In rhyme? What do you?
Well, the way she talks, the bus will go here and then the bus will go there because that's what buses do. It's weird.
He can't finish a sentence.
Anonymous, really anonymous.
The man doesn't know where he's going. He doesn't know where the exit is. He's not sure how to get through a speech.
Mr. President, you need to sign it.
Old, outdated, retired, elderly, aging, senile, dementia, slow, confused, idiot, ignorant, sleepy, gaff, bumbling, bad, terrible, disappointing, joke, profanity.
Being corrupt is bad. Being corrupt and senile is even worse.
Obviously, it was satire, right? But imagine if they actually told the truth about Trump. They want to talk shit about Biden. Give me a break.
Right. But look, I think that video really points out something. This is a systematic attack on Joe Biden that does reflect a weakness Trump believes he has. Mm-hmm. And I want to mention to Democrats who are watching, there are endless number of stories lately of Democrats being interviewed. You're saying, "Oh, Biden's too old. Biden's so." All right. As a former Republican, I want to give you a clue. It's a very simple technical that we do. It's called shutting the fuck up. It's called getting on message. The challenge here is old and good versus old and evil. Mm-hmm. Take the good, cheerlead it. You know, we put out an ad this week, a positive Biden ad this week, and we talked about how his experience, his decades of service have shaped him and formed him. This is a guy who's doing a good job because he's got the experience and he's been road tested. He's been there. He's done that. Mm-hmm. And
we should run that ad, actually.
Something that as you watch Trump's physicality, you know what? Yeah, let's do that.
Let's run that ad. It's called American Story. It's one of our newest ads this week on our pro-Biden messaging. Democrats.
Decades of leadership, a lifetime of experience, and rock-solid determination to rebuild America. Joe Biden's plan for America's economic comeback is working. The highest job growth in the world. Inflation coming down faster than any other major nation. The prices families pay for everything from gas to groceries falling fast. Hope and optimism coming back. His tireless work to build a stronger America means we're respected again. And a respected America is a safer America. Joe Biden's years have taught him leadership, wisdom, toughness, how to ignore the noise and focus on the people. He's a president for every American, making the hard decisions with compassion, heart, and respect. That's Joe Biden, America's president.
Fantastic.
See, here's the thing. We're punching the economic message, but opening the curtain a little bit here. That's also a way to counteract some of this propaganda that's being pushed against him by Trump and Fox and everybody else about being too old.
Yep.
So now you've seen
yeah.
of the secret sauce.
Yes, a little bit. I mean, you broke up a little bit there, Rick. Your internet is not cooperating tonight. It's being cranky. But
well, here's the thing, folks. There's the west side of my house is under construction, so I'm not with my normal high-speed internet connection on the Ethernet cable.
Yeah.
We're just on regular basic bitch Wi-Fi.
I figured because we haven't had these gremlins in your internet in quite some time, so I knew something had to be up. It's either that or a storm. But yes, your point is that's a little bit of the behind the scenes secret sauce explanation as to what goes into the thinking when we produce ads like that. Because I can tell you that the conference that I was at in Germany, everyone asked the question about Biden being too old and, Biden is feeble and all this. And I'm like, listen, there are, yes, is he older? Sure. Has he, he's 80 years old, but he's also competent and he's doing a great job. And the country is better off with him as president. And with age comes wisdom and experience. And so the Democrats need to stop feeding into the Republicans' messaging about Biden being too old. Like you said, they need to shut up and start talking about experience. I have to say, I don't know if you saw the Gavin Newsom interview with Dana Bash on this, and he had a fantastic answer.
He did. He actually did very well on that.
He did very well on that. And he's like the only one. Every single Democrat should be saying the same thing. With consistency in messaging, people start to believe it. So that's what, repetition creates reality, and I wish they would get on board. But this is why we're doing what we're doing. This is why we're raising money so that we can play ads like this in larger audiences, so that more people see it, because there's got to be a counter to what Republicans are doing against Biden, because they know Trump is losing it. Biden's not. He's all there.
We put that ad up in Wisconsin this week and asked our supporters and our donors, both big donors and our small dollar donors, to help us fund it. And they funded it within a few hours, and it really shot past our expectations. So it's now pounding away in Wisconsin. We're growing this campaign into the other swing states. And the reason this ad is written and done the way it is it's targeting the voters that we are really good at talking to at the Lincoln Project.
Yeah.
Soft Republicans, independent leaning conservatives, women voters who behaviorally are Republicans, but can be persuaded away from Trump. So we're going to expand this as we continue to raise money for it at lincolnproject.us/donate. We're going to continue to do that and expand it into other states in the coming days and weeks, because this is a message, and there are follow-on messages in this series that we think will help start to ensure that we don't have Trump just suck all the attention from even the soft Republicans in the coming months, while they're still having their catfight in the primary.
Yes. And this was a great week for us to launch this, because Biden was up at the UN General Assembly meeting, the annual gathering of all the leaders of the world that come to New York for UNGA, as we call it. And President Biden gave a really good speech where he focused on democracy and the importance of democracy. And, he spoke at a fundraiser the night before where he was even more candid about the importance of democracy being on the ballot in 2024. And he's 100% right. I mean, democracy was on the ballot in 2020 too, but even more so now, because Trump coming back in this campaign of vengeance and revenge and at post January 6th and post all of what they were, Republicans have demonstrated they're willing to tolerate. These people don't care about our democracy or our Constitution anymore. They don't. And historians,
They don't care about it.
They're worried about it.
They are opposed to it.
Right. That's right. And historians, some of those conservative thinkers that are still honest out there, the 5 of them, were interviewed recently and said that, they're worried about this anti-constitutionalist movement in the Republican Party. That's dangerous. Yeah, no shit.
Sure.
That's what we've been warning people about. So it's important to keep injecting that into the zeitgeist, because a lot of times Americans, they live their lives. They're not paying attention to things the way we do. They think, that this is hyperbole. Nothing's going to happen to our democracy. It'll be fine. No, it won't. If we allow Trump and these guys to continue on. No, it won't. They're chipping away at this here.
This is the secret underneath a lot of this authoritarian movement. As much as anytime, I'm sure you guys have seen this online, if you ever see the word democracy, they screech immediately, we're a constitutional republic. And yes, we are, based on democratic principles.
Right.
And the problem with a lot of their posture is that there are a lot of parts of the Constitution that they would like to roll back. So when Donald Trump says, I want to put my political opponents in jail, that means no more First, Fourth, or Fifth Amendments.
Mm-hmm.
When they say we want to eliminate birthright citizenship for people born in this country to become American citizens, that means they want to eliminate the 14th Amendment. Trust me, if they could get away with it, they'd take away the right of women to vote. There's an
They've said so.
window sort of process with these guys, and it runs like this. Somebody on the fringes will say something completely crazy and absurd, and that's crazy and absurd. But then somebody on Fox will say, well, that was crazy and absurd, but did you see how the libs reacted?
Yes.
Maybe we should do this crazy thing. And then it evolves into the weirdos like Matt Gaetz or Mo Brooks or Marcella Green will go, well, we should do X. I saw it on Fox. And when people react badly, it loops up again. And then the rest of the sort of regular Republicans go, well, they're attacking all of us, so we might as well do this crazy thing. That flow, that process will lead to the shredding of the Constitution in very short order if they get their way.
That you nailed something that is happening very subtly that I think is one of the most dangerous parts of this whole thing. It's the both sidesism. That the normie Republicans who know better but are too afraid to speak out, they, instead of they validate the crazy by saying, oh, well, there's both sides. They try to do this moral relativism thing. And I just had Eric Cantor was at this conference that I was at.
I heard you strip the bark off of old Eric.
I did. This is the second year in a year in a row that I did that with him, because he tried this mealy-mouthed both sides bullshit. And I said, how dare you? That is absolutely not true. You're engaging in revisionist history here. And this is part of the problem. This is one of the tactics that these demagogues are using to chip away at the institutions of our democracy here. You're normalizing this bullshit. And you should be ashamed of yourself. And you know better, Eric. He didn't know what to say, and but I'm not going to hold back, because it's people like him that enable Trump. And it's like his buddy, Kevin McCarthy, who in the House of Representatives is losing control of his caucus. And he won't even, could you imagine? I just can't even believe you had Vladimir Zelensky is in the US, and he came to DC. He's in the US for the UN conference, and then made a trip down here to the DC area, met the Pentagon, and went to the Pentagon and the White House. President Biden welcomed him with open arms, because he recognizes that this fight in Ukraine is a global fight to protect democracy. And Kevin McCarthy is Speaker of the House. Oh, he went, but he didn't invite Zelensky to the House. He didn't invite him to do a joint session of Congress. He didn't even want to be seen with him. He didn't want pictures taken with him, because you have a Republican conference now that seems to be, they don't give a shit.
Pro-Putin. Let's be real.
Pro-Putin, right? They don't want to support a country in Europe that's under attack. Are you kidding me? Ronald Reagan is spinning in his freaking grave. What happened to that? They should be ashamed of themselves. And we have another ad that was dropped today that dovetails with this pro-Biden, pro-Ukraine, pro-democracy message, and the timing of this couldn't have been better. While the Republicans are over here as cowards that won't stand up to dictators, they bow down to them. We've got President Biden embracing a pro-democracy country and making sure that America is still on the forefront of it. Take a look.
What is America at our best? A beacon of hope for the oppressed. The strength to stand with those who love liberty and respect human dignity. The courage to oppose murderous tyrants. Some question if America's greatness is only our history, not our future. But in a dangerous and changing world, President Joe Biden reminds the world what it means to be an American. That America is great when we are good. While air raid sirens blared, President Biden stood side by side with a democracy under attack. He's brought the freedom-loving world together to once again unite against a monstrous tyranny of darkness. We are Americans. Joe Biden is our president. We stand with freedom. We stand with Ukraine.
Yes. As we put something out like
if every
that,
other
Rick,
Republican.
Go ahead. Sorry, your internet was
not
weird.
lately. I know. Sorry, I'm so sorry, folks. The West Wing of Wilson Manor is under construction.
Uh-oh. Well, okay. As Rick's internet comes back, I'm
Departure
going to
from the traditions of remarkable.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Okay.
I'm back for now. Who knows how long we've got?
Try again. Go ahead. Third time.
What I was saying was,
go.
if you looked at every other Republican president in memory, okay, if you went to George W. Bush, if you went to George Bush, Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Ike, you can go back to the dawn of time for Republican presidents, and if they were presented with a warlike nation of Russia invading an ally who shares more of our values than the authoritarianism and dictatorship of Russia, every single one of them would be on the side of Ukraine. Ronald Reagan, I'm surprised he hasn't risen from the grave and bitch slapped these House members and Senate members who are openly siding with Vladimir Putin, who are cheerleading for the genocide of the Ukrainian people at the hands of Vladimir Putin's troops. It is astounding to me. Mm-hmm. And they believe that they are trying to save their man, Vladimir, from humiliation and defeat and death, which is true. If he loses, he dies. And that's the thing. That's one of the reasons why Putin is going to put it all in America again to try to put his thumb on the scale of this election another time. Because if Donald Trump is president, he will cut off aid to Ukraine immediately. He will cut Ukraine off and sell them to the Russians for some shitty, shallow flattery from Russian TV.
Yep,
that's what will happen. And the Ukrainians know it, and people of goodwill know it, and Joe Biden knows it because he's been out there as an open and brave leader in the world, reassembling a coalition against the Russian Empire and the Soviet remnant that Putin represents to fight back against something that is the worst possible precedent. If you end up with Putin eating Ukraine, he will go to Moldova. He will go to Romania. It will go and go and go.
And NATO will fall apart. I mean,
Sure.
because if the U.S. isn't there to lead, Europe's not going to. That was the other clarion call that I heard at the conference, was people saying, you guys have got to, the American democracy has to remain strong because you are our leader in the world. Europe's not going to do it, and they know it. They said, you guys cannot fail. Do you understand the responsibility here? I'm like, yeah, I do. And to hear that from our European allies, they know. And President Biden has been able to hold this coalition together in ways that I don't think his opponents ever thought, and in ways that Vladimir Putin didn't think he would ever do. And to give here's a real live example of how Fox News is contributing to this bullshit with against Ukraine. The headline just now, as we were sitting here, just came across Fox News. Fetterman wears questionable outfit to meeting with Zelensky. That's their headline. They're worrying about the fact that a senator wore fucking shorts to meet Zelensky.
They're the
Who
most,
gives a shit?
Their degree of superficiality and shallowness and general shit tier behavior cannot be overemphasized. And just remember, folks, Rupert could die right now, and Fox will still be a cesspool of agitprop and enemy propaganda for the foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, instead of focusing on the importance of supporting Ukraine against the tyranny of Russia, they're worrying about a senator wearing shorts. I mean, look,
right.
God,
the greatest sin of all.
Right.
A senator wore shorts.
It's the suit syndrome again. You know what I mean? Like to take the seriousness off of the issue, right. They focus on something stupid like this. Now, mind you, I'm not happy about the dress code being relaxed in the Senate. I think there should be certain decorum here, but but you don't juxtapose the issue with something as important as supporting Ukraine. Like, it's ridiculous.
Right. It's the kind of triviality that Fox would love to spend a lot of time focusing on.
Yes.
And we have the leader of a country that has been attacked by the second largest military in the world, and is the target of targeted attacks every day against civilians, against hospitals, schools, civilian housing areas and homes, neighborhoods, who's fighting tooth and nail to survive. And of course, Fox, in their wet-brained, slow-coach, shallow, inbred, asininity, is going to talk about, John Fetterman wore shorts and a sweatshirt. Oh, that's the biggest crime in history. People keep asking me, why aren't you in the Fetterman fight? Why aren't you talking about that? I'm like, first off, I don't give a fuck.
Right.
I think you should wear a coat and tie. That's me. I'm old guard. Okay.
I agree.
But I'm also not going to get lured into a dumb culture war battle on either side of it. We have a bunch of big consequential issues right now. Donald Trump is dominating the Republican primary. He's going to be the nominee, as we've been telling you for 2 years. And so, part of the strategy that Fox follows is the Steve Bannon strategy of flood the zone with shit.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about things all the time that distract and move people off of real issues. The real issue here, we've got one of our allies in the country this week. The president's holding bilateral meetings with Zelensky and the Ukrainian team to make sure that we're helping them wage and win this defensive war against Russia's illegal and genocidal assault.
That's right. That is not going anywhere anytime soon, much to the chagrin of those of us who would like to see this end quickly. But it won't end until the U.S. decides that they want Ukraine to win. I mean, we're saying that, but we really need to do what it takes to make sure Ukraine has what they need, along with our European partners, to make sure that they win, because the stalemate is not it's not sustainable. It really isn't. Right. For the people of Ukraine or for Europe. Another big issue that's going on of some significant consequence, as we mentioned earlier in the show, is this chaos going on in the freaking House of Representatives, trying to pass a budget so that the government can continue to function.
Good luck.
Kevin McCarthy is just flailing about. And he was walking around with some swagger earlier in the week, thinking that he might have had a way to avoid this. Well, that fell apart quickly. And they couldn't even pass DOD funding, the Department of Defense funding bill. Now, they couldn't even get past a procedural vote to vote on the bill. And this is something that's usually bipartisan, because people don't want to mess around with our military and our national security. So usually that's not a big issue. Oh, well, it is now because of these idiots in the Freedom Caucus and the Matt Gaetz Chaos Caucus. And speaking of idiots, Tuberville is still over there in the Senate holding up all of these military promotions. And Chuck Schumer finally stepped in and used a procedural method that they could use to vote on individual promotions. Because as of yesterday before the vote, we didn't have a commandant for the Marines. We didn't have a secretary of the Navy. We didn't have 3 branches.
We were about to not have a chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Joint Chiefs. So, so Schumer came in and said, okay, we're going to have to vote on these individually. And they made an exception because it was so important, critical to our national security that these positions be filled. There's still 300 other promotions for generals and flag officers and things that have to be approved by the Senate that Tuberville's still holding up. And these people, they hate the military.
And if you get down into 06s, into colonels, it's 700 key positions in our military that they are blocking. And look, the position that Tuberville has is delightful if you are China, Russia, Iran, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, or any other country that's an enemy of America. Mm-hmm. You're delighted that these promotions have been screwed up because our various military units across the world are leaderless in many cases right now.
Right.
If the balloon went up, if things got bad tomorrow, there would be many, many military units without a command.
Which is unthinkable. It is unthinkable.
Chinese would pay money for.
Yes.
And this is why Tuberville is a traitor to this country.
I think we should remind people of what this fucker is doing down there in Alabama. Run our Tuberville ad.
For 248 years, the United States Marine Corps has valiantly defended this country against foreign enemies. The Marine Corps' legendary courage, determination, and skill on the battlefield leaves our enemies in fear and our allies in awe. Marines of every race, creed, and color have sworn a sacred oath to protect our Constitution. They fought, bled, and died for this country. Today, the Marine Corps faces a domestic enemy, a small man with a big mouth, determined to destroy the Corps for his petty political agenda. Tommy Tuberville is creating a national security nightmare. Who wins from Tuberville's attack on the Marine Corps? China, ISIS, Vladimir Putin. Tommy Tuberville insults every Marine who ever served, and he puts the men and women of the Marine Corps on the line in danger. Every U.S. Marine is a patriot. Tommy Tuberville is a traitor.
Shout out to Peter Coyote voicing that for us. Yeah, it's the truth. It's just outrageous.
When I was writing that, the small man with a big mouth
Love
line.
Love it.
You know, sometimes when you're writing, you feel like you've got the core of the truth somewhere.
Yeah.
And that moment, I just realized, like, this really is a guy. This is his one claim to fame. This is what he'll go down in the history books as. He's going to be going down the history books as a guy who betrayed his country out of pique and small personal political interest to try to screw over not only the 700 officers and generals that are in the promotion pipeline here that he's blocking, but our military more broadly. 2.5 million men and women in the Defense Department and the U.S. military in and out of uniform who are being affected by this treasonous, low, reprehensible man's betrayal of their service.
Someone who's never served himself. Another coward.
He has served himself when he was in Miami, according to friends of mine, equal helpings of indulgences of various chemical kinds. I don't know if he still does that. But
that's a different kind of serving. That's a different kind of service. Oh man.
Well, a side of Bolivian marching powder.
Oh well, I mean, you know, ask Don Jr. I guess.
Listen, when you're a coach in Miami in the 1990s, things happen.
Yeah. Anyway.
But look, he's a bad guy, and this is just one more example that the Republican Party's public image of loving the military. And I want to say one more thing about this. There's an article today called "The Patriot" in the Atlantic
about Milley,
Jeffrey Goldberg, about General Milley, who is retiring as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. At a ceremony, wounded army who had been decorated multiple times, he'd been severely wounded in Afghanistan, came and sang. He's got a beautiful singing voice. And Donald Trump approached General Milley and others when it was over and said, I don't want to see that. Nobody wants to see that thing. Because the guy was wounded, and Trump didn't like seeing someone who'd lost a limb and who had been scarred in battle. And it tells you everything you need to know about Donald Trump, because the image of MAGA as being pro-military, pro-America, pro-defense is a complete lie.
Yes.
From top to bottom.
Yes.
They are the betrayers of this country. They are the betrayers of our servicemen and women. They hold them in contempt. Never forget, he called them suckers and losers. And
That's
meant
right.
it. He
That's
called
right.
John McCain, he mocked John McCain being imprisoned by the North Vietnamese communists for 5.5 years.
Mhm.
He thought it was funny. This is a man who does not love or even respect military service or military service members. And I want you folks to keep that top of mind as we go forward into this election cycle.
That will not be the end of us making sure that people are reminded of how traitorous these Republicans are, particularly Donald Trump, Captain Bone Spurs himself.
Right.
Said it was
he fought in the battle of Studio 54. That was his Vietnam.
Right. That's right. His own not getting a venereal disease, his own personal Vietnam is what he said. That is a quote from Donald Trump himself. So, on that note, we'll keep our eyes on what's happening in the House and hope that there's not going to be a government shutdown. I am not as optimistic because these idiots, they live for this nonsense. But we'll
yeah. Listen, I'm with you, Tara. I think they're going to shut it down.
So do I.
And guess what? Hey, Matt Gaetz, you're shutting your district down.
Oh my God, I want to kill your internet tonight, Rick. You've had so many good things to say in the stupid internet. Well, look, what I don't know what
stupid internet.
I don't know what the over/under is on Kevin McCarthy surviving this. I think there may be a vote called on his speakership too, whether he survives or not.
I think so.
I don't know, but I think that's going to happen. And we've also got a presidential debate coming up, primary debate with the rest of the idiots in the primary that are vying for second place. Do you know this Vivek, speaking of idiots, Vivek Ramaswamy is actually polling higher than Nikki Haley is now in New Hampshire?
Yeah. And Ron DeSantis is in fifth place in New Hampshire. Fifth place.
Jeez. My God.
In Tallahassee, there's a big betting pool going on right now of the death pool for Ron DeSantis' campaign.
Who's that guy again?
Right? What?
Rhonda who? There's an article out that says the Trump.
Rhonda Sanchez is
right.
Drag name.
Right. There's an article out that says the Trump world is ignoring DeSantis now because they're like, this guy's done, so we don't have to pay attention to him anymore. Yeah. And that is like really.
Maybe we should run our last DeSantis. Maybe we should run probably the last ad we'll make about DeSantis. Do we have that in the stack?
Yes, you know what? We're going to end the show on something hilarious.
Let's end the show with that ad. We'll see you guys again.
Ode to DeSantis.
We'll see you guys again in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
This is the face of electile dysfunction. So is this. And this. Are your poll numbers sagging? Has your campaign lost that spark? Do you find yourself compensating for your shortcomings in other ways? The fact is, 1 in 3 GOP candidates has some form of electile dysfunction, a political condition also called failure. Luckily, there's hope. Introducing Viagra, the one-stop solution for those experiencing electile dysfunction. Ron, try Viagra and save yourself from further humiliation.
My wife.
Viagra, for when your campaign's performance is more flaccid than fantastic.
Side effects may include symptoms of worthlessness, anger, impotence, financial ruin, confusion, frustration, constipation, flatulence, depression, rage, and failure.